My name is Vivienne Ashcroft. I'm 31 years old. And 4 months ago, I thought I was about to marry the man I'd spend the rest of my life with. His name was Ethan Caldwell. He was 29. We had been together for 3 years and engaged for 8 months. At the time, I believed we had something solid, something mature. Now, I know that appearances can be very convincing. Last month, we were sitting on our balcony with drinks after dinner, when Ethan suddenly got that strange expression people get. Right before they confess something, they think you'll find charming. He smiled, nervously. Babe, I need to tell you something. I laughed softly. Whenever someone starts with that sentence, it's never good. He grinned. Promise you won't get mad. I hated those words. They always sounded like advance warning for bad news. What is it? He bit his lip. Remember that guy at your gym last month? The one who kept asking you for advice with the machines? I nodded. The one with terrible form. Ethan laughed. Yeah. Him. Then he actually chuckled. That wasn't random. I frowned. What do you mean? I hired him. I blinked. You hired him? He's an investigator. Sort of. He does loyalty tests. For several seconds I genuinely thought he was joking. But he wasn't. He looked proud. I just needed to know before the wedding. He explained. My ex-girlfriend cheated on me. My dad cheated on my mom. I needed peace of mind. I stared at him. You paid someone to flirt with me. It wasn't serious. He said quickly. You passed. You barely even noticed him. He reached for my hand. Now I know I can trust you completely. Something about that sentence bothered me. Not because of what he said, because of how relieved he sounded. As if trust was something purchased. I stayed calm. Maybe too calm. Interesting. I said. He smiled. You're not angry. I'm processing. Then he launched into a long speech about trauma and fear and wanting reassurance. I listened. I even smiled. But that night, after he fell asleep beside me, something kept nagging at me. Trust wasn't supposed to work like this. While looking for tissues in his nightstand, I noticed a business card. Rochelle Monroe, Discreet Investigations and Loyalty Verification. I stared at it for a long time. Then, I saved the number. The next morning, while sitting in my car outside work, I called. A cheerful voice answered. Rochelle speaking. Hi. My name is Vivienne Ashcroft. There was a brief pause. Oh. She laughed. Ethan's fiancé. You know who I am. Of course. You're probably the most boring assignment I've ever had. I almost laughed, despite myself. I need to hire you. Silence. Then Rochelle spoke carefully. To test Ethan. No. Then what? I want you to follow him. Another pause. Are you sure? Very. She sighed softly. Sometimes, people regret learning the truth. I'll take that risk. Okay. Honey. When? Thursday nights. Specific. Ethan has poker nights with his friends every Thursday. Rochelle chuckled. Funny. What? When he hired me, he talked about those poker nights constantly. A strange feeling settled in my stomach. She quoted the exact schedule. 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. every Thursday. Sacred guy time. I hired her immediately. $200 an hour? 4-hour minimum. Done. That Thursday I acted completely normal. Ethan dressed carefully. Cologne. Nice shirt. Perfect hair. Big poker game tonight, I asked casually. He smiled. You know it. What are you guys playing? Texas Hold'em. Who usually wins? He laughed. Depends who's lucky. Then he kissed my forehead. I'll be back before midnight. At 11:40, și 2 p.m. My phone rang. Rochelle. You sitting down. My heart started pounding. Yes. There is no poker game. Everything inside me went cold. He went to the Marriott downtown. I closed my eyes. What room? 412. My breathing stopped. I have photographs. Seconds later, images appeared on my phone. Ethan entering the hotel. Ethan getting into the elevator. Ethan knocking on room 412. The door opening, and standing there, Chloe Bennett, his ex-girlfriend, the woman he claimed he hadn't spoken to in years. The final photo showed them kissing before she pulled him inside. I couldn't move. Rochelle's voice softened. There's more. I barely whispered. Tell me. They've been doing this every Thursday for 5 months. 5 months? We'd been engaged for 8. Are you okay? Rochelle asked gently. Oddly enough, I was calm, not happy, not angry, just calm. The kind of calm that happens when every strange moment suddenly makes sense. Actually, I said quietly, I think I finally understand everything. Then Rochelle said something that made my blood run even colder. Honey, I don't think this story is over. I didn't confront Ethan that night. Looking back, some people might think that was strange, but once you've been blindsided, anger isn't always the first emotion. Sometimes it's disbelief, sometimes it's grief, and sometimes it's the overwhelming need to understand how deep the lie really goes. The next morning, Ethan came home from work with flowers. Sunflowers. My favorites. He kissed my cheek and asked what I wanted for dinner. I almost broke down right there, because that's the part nobody talks about. Cheaters aren't villains every second of the day. Sometimes, they still laugh with you, still hold your hand, still ask if you slept well, which somehow makes everything hurt even worse. Over breakfast, I smiled and asked casually, how was poker night? He grinned. Ryan lost $300. We were all giving him a hard time. Lee. Smooth. Effortless. Not even a pause. I nodded and changed the subject. After he left, Rochelle called. I did some additional digging. What did you find? Chloe Bennett isn't just an ex. I frowned. What do you mean? They officially broke up 4 years ago. That's what Ethan told me. But according to multiple people I talked to, they never really stopped seeing each other. My stomach tightened. You're saying this isn't some recent mistake? No. Honey. Looks like they've been keeping each other around for years. I sat in silence. Then Rochelle added something unexpected. There's another problem. I closed my eyes. Of course there is. Chloe's engaged. I nearly dropped my coffee. What? Her fiancé name is Jordan Hayes. They've been together 4 years. Wedding in 6 months. I couldn't believe it. 2 engagements, 2 innocent people, destroyed by the same affair. Does he know? No. Can you find him? Rochelle laughed softly. Honey, that's literally my job. 2 days later, she sent me Jordan's Instagram profile. He looked happy, normal, completely unaware. There were photos of him and Chloe on vacations, birthday celebrations, engagement pictures, comments filled with heart emojis. My chest hurt looking at them, because I recognized that happiness. I used to look exactly like that in pictures with Ethan. For several hours, I debated contacting Jordan immediately, but another thought kept returning. No, they shouldn't get to control the ending. I wanted the truth exposed, completely, not hidden behind excuses. That weekend, while Ethan and I were sitting on the couch watching television, I said casually, we should have one last celebration before the wedding. He smiled. Like what? An engagement party. His eyes lit up. Really? Invite everyone important. He wrapped his arms around me. Babe. That's a great idea. The irony almost made me sick. Over the next 2 weeks, Ethan became ridiculously enthusiastic. He helped choose decorations, picked food, made playlists, even suggested inviting Chloe. She's moved on, he said. We ended years ago. We're friends now. Friends. The word almost made me laugh. Sure, I replied. Invita here. He looked relieved. Then he added, and maybe Jordan too. They're engaged now. That nearly took my breath away. He actually wanted both worlds. His fiancée, his mistress, and her unsuspecting fiancé, all in one room. I smiled. Of course. Meanwhile, I secretly contacted Jordan. I introduced myself carefully. Hi. Jordan? My name is Vivienne. I'm planning a surprise for Chloe, and hoped you could help. He responded almost immediately. Absolutely. She loves surprises. Reading those words broke my heart. He trusted her, just like I trusted Ethan. Over the following 2 weeks, Rochelle continued documenting Thursday nights. Every single Thursday. Same hotel. Same room. Same pattern. She collected receipts, photos, timestamps, everything. Each new file hurt less. Not because I cared less, but because acceptance had started replacing shock. One Thursday night at 9 o'clock. While Ethan was supposedly playing poker, I texted him, "I hope you're winning tonight." He replied instantly, "Ryan's bluffing again." We're dying laughing. Attached was a random picture of poker chips. Rochelle sent me another picture 2 minutes later. Ethan and Chloe, kissing in the hotel lobby. I stared at both photos, side by side. The fake one, and the real one. For the first time, I stopped wondering whether this could be fixed. It couldn't. The man I loved existed, but the man I was engaged to, he didn't. That person had been an illusion. 3 days before the party, Ethan surprised me with a handwritten letter. He thanked me for loving him, for understanding his fears, for proving that trustworthy people still existed. I read the entire letter while sitting alone in my car. Then I cried harder than I had cried since learning the truth. Because he meant every word, and somehow, despite loving me, he had still chosen to betray me. People like to believe bad people don't love anyone. But sometimes they do. They're just selfish enough to love themselves more. Party day finally arrived. Nearly 150 guests filled the venue. Friends, co-workers, our parents, my sister Claire, his brother Mason, everyone. Ethan looked handsome, happy, completely relaxed. He had no idea his entire world was about to collapse. Then, 1 hour into the celebration, I received a text message. Jordan had arrived. And suddenly, after weeks of preparation, my heart started pounding. Because there was no turning back now. Jordan looked exactly like I expected. Friendly, normal, excited. He walked into the venue carrying flowers and scanning the room with a huge smile. The second Chloe saw him, the color drained from her face. Ethan froze beside me. I almost felt sorry for them. Almost. Baby Jordan shouted happily. He rushed across the room and wrapped Chloe in a hug before kissing her. Several guests applauded. People assumed they were simply a happy couple. But Ethan looked like he'd seen a ghost. Chloe's hands were shaking. "Jordan," she whispered. "Surprise," he laughed. "Vivienne contacted me. She wanted me here." I watched Ethan's expression carefully. Confusion, panic, fear. He looked at me. I smiled. For the first time in weeks, I genuinely smiled. "Everything okay?" I asked sweetly. He swallowed. "Yeah. Liar." The room returned to normal for a few minutes. Music played. People talked. My mother chatted with Ethan's parents. My sister Claire kept giving me worried looks because she knew something was coming. She was the only person I'd told. Finally, I stood up and tapped my glass. Everyone turned toward me. Ethan wrapped an arm around my waist. "Speech time," he whispered. "Something like that?" People laughed. I looked around the room. At my family. At his family. At our friends. At the man standing beside me. Then I took a deep breath. First, thank you all for coming tonight. Applause. I wanted one final celebration before our wedding. More smiles. Ethan squeezed my hand. I also wanted to thank Ethan for teaching me something important. He smiled proudly. What he whispered. I turned toward him. Trust. His smile widened. Until I continued. Last month, Ethan hired a private investigator to test whether I would cheat. The room went silent. Ethan's face changed immediately. "What are you doing?" he whispered. I ignored him. He paid someone to flirt with me because he needed proof I was loyal. Several people exchanged uncomfortable glances. His mother looked horrified. His father frowned. Ethan forced a laugh. "Babe, maybe we should..." "No," I said calmly. "You wanted certainty." Then, I looked directly at him. So did I. The smile vanished from his face. I picked up the remote connected to the television. And that's why I hired the same investigator. Complete silence. Ethan's eyes widened. Vivienne. The first photograph appeared. Ethan entering the Marriott. Gasps filled the room. Second photo. The elevator. Third photo. Room 412. Fourth photo. Clue opening the door. Then the final image. The kiss. Someone dropped a drink. Jordan stopped breathing. Chloe burst into tears. Ethan stepped forward immediately. This isn't what it looks like. I stared at him. Your tongue was literally in her mouth. Nobody laughed. The room was too shocked. Jordan slowly turned toward Chloe. Tell me this isn't real. She started sobbing. Jordan. Please. He stepped backward. No. Then he looked at Ethan. You knew she was engaged. Ethan looked like he might faint. Jordan. Listen. 4 years. Jordan's voice cracked. 4 years together. Then, he turned to me. And you? 3 years. I answered quietly. Nobody spoke. The silence was unbearable. Finally, Ethan's mother stood up. Ethan. He turned toward her hopefully. She looked devastated. Tell me this isn't true. He couldn't, because the photos were right there, because the evidence was overwhelming, because lies finally ran out of places to hide. Then Chloe suddenly pointed at me. You set us up. I almost laughed. No. You humiliated us. I shook my head. No. Flew. I pointed at the screen. Those pictures humiliated you. Jordan removed his engagement ring. He placed it on the table. Very gently. Very quietly. And somehow, that calmness felt more painful than screaming. We're done. Chloe collapsed into a chair, crying. Ethan grabbed my arm. Please. Let's talk privately. I pulled away. No. Vivienne. Please. His voice broke. You don't understand. I stared at him in disbelief. I understand, perfectly. Then I lowered my voice. You tested my loyalty while cheating on me for 5 months. His face turned white. How did you know about Rochelle? Because she told me. His mother gasped. The investigator? I nodded. The same woman your son hired to seduce me? His father slowly sat down. The disappointment on his face was worse than anger. Ethan. He whispered. What happened to you? Meanwhile, Jordan stood frozen. Then he laughed. Not happily. The broken laugh of someone whose reality has just shattered. You know what's funny, he said. I almost skipped tonight. Nobody knew what to say. Then my mother stood beside me. Protective, as always. She looked directly at Ethan's parents. We expect every dollar we contributed to the wedding returned? His father nodded immediately. Of course. Ethan looked stunned. Dad. Not now. For the first time in his life, his father sounded ashamed of him. People began leaving. Whispers spread through the room. Some hugged me. Others hugged Jordan. Within 15 minutes, the celebration had transformed into a funeral for 2 relationships. But the worst moment came just before Chloe left. Her younger sister Emily suddenly spoke. I knew. Everyone froze. Chloe turned around. What? Emily started crying. I saw you and Ethan together months ago. Chloe's eyes widened. You promised you wouldn't say anything. Jordan closed his eyes. Another lie. Another betrayal. Their parents looked completely broken. Chloe's mother burst into tears. And just like that, 2 families collapsed in a single evening. As guests disappeared and silence returned, Jordan sat alone at a table, staring at his engagement ring. I walked over and handed him a bottle of water. He accepted it without speaking. After a long moment, he whispered, Thank you. There were tears in his eyes. This hurts. I know. I answered. But at least now we know the truth. He nodded slowly. Across the room, Ethan stood alone. For the first time since I'd met him. Nobody was standing beside him. And somehow, that image hurt almost as much as the betrayal itself. Because despite everything I had once planned to spend forever with that man, I thought everything would finally be over after that night. I was wrong. The engagement party had destroyed the lies, but it hadn't destroyed Ethan's pride. And wounded pride can be dangerous. 3 days later, he called my mother crying. Actual tears. He claimed I had humiliated him, that I had ruined his future. My mother listened quietly for 30 seconds before saying, "You ruined your own future, Ethan." Then, she hung up. Next, he tried my father. He claimed I had manipulated the entire situation. My dad, who almost never loses his temper, simply said, "You had a loyal woman and threw her away." Click. That should have been the end. Instead, Ethan went into full damage control mode. Suddenly, according to him, I was controlling. I was emotionally abusive. He only sought comfort with Chloe because I didn't understand him. Some people believed him. Not many, but enough to make things frustrating. Friends started texting me. Coworkers asked awkward questions. People I'd barely spoken to suddenly wanted both sides. Then, Ethan made an even bigger mistake. He contacted my employer. I'm an accountant at a mid-sized firm. Nothing glamorous, but I love my work. He told human resources that I was harassing him. The problem? We didn't even work together. Never had. HR investigated anyway. I showed them everything. The messages, the timeline, the photos, the confession about the loyalty test. The case was closed in less than 24 hours. Still, I felt humiliated. That's when I stopped defending myself. I simply told the truth. Nothing more. Nothing less. I made one post. No insults. No photos. No names. Just facts. For everyone asking why the wedding has been canceled, my former fiancé hired a private investigator to test my loyalty. I passed. I hired the same investigator and discovered he had been secretly meeting his ex-girlfriend every Thursday for 5 months. I wish everyone involved healing and growth. That was it. Simple, calm, honest, and somehow, honesty spread faster than lies. Former friends started reaching out. People shared their own experiences. Several women privately messaged me about Chloe. Apparently, Ethan wasn't the only relationship she'd interfered with. The truth started surfacing without any help from me. Meanwhile, Jordan and I stayed in touch. Not romantically. Never romantically. Just two people trying to recover from the same disaster. He started therapy. So did I. Some days were easier than others. Some mornings I woke up angry. Other mornings I missed Ethan terribly. That's another ugly truth people don't like discussing. You can miss someone and still know they were wrong for you. Love doesn't disappear overnight. Trust does. About a month after the party, Ethan showed up outside my apartment. He looked terrible. Lost weight, dark circles, exhausted. When I opened the door, he immediately started crying. I made the biggest mistake of my life. I stayed quiet. Chloe and I are over, he said. Of course they were. Affairs rarely survive reality. He took another step closer. I love you. I felt tears forming. Not because I wanted him back, but because 6 weeks earlier, hearing those words would have meant everything. Now they meant nothing. I believe you, I said softly. He blinked. What? I believe that you love me. Hope appeared in his eyes. Then, I finished. But loving someone isn't the same as respecting them. His shoulders collapsed. Please. No. We can fix this. No. We can start over. No. Ethan. For the first time since I'd met him, he looked truly broken. And maybe that sounds cruel, but actions have consequences. Eventually, he nodded. Then he whispered, I deserve this. Yes. I answered honestly. He left. And that was the last time I saw him. Months passed. Life slowly became peaceful again. I started spending more time with family. My sister Claire practically moved into my apartment during the worst weeks. My mother made enough soup to feed an army. My father checked on me every morning. Therapy helped. Time helped. Truth helped. One evening, Rochelle invited me to dinner with her and her husband. We laughed for hours. The woman who uncovered the worst period of my life somehow became one of my closest friends. Funny how life works. Jordan eventually started dating again. Slowly, carefully. He deserved happiness. So did I. And eventually, I allowed myself to believe that again. A few weeks ago, I ran into Ethan completely by accident. He was standing in line at Target. For a second, our eyes met. He looked surprised, then sad. I smiled politely. He smiled back. No anger, no bitterness. Just two strangers carrying memories. As I walked away, he quietly said, "I'm sorry." I turned around, and for the first time, I meant the words I said. I forgive you. Not for him. For me. Because forgiveness isn't reconciliation. It's freedom. Today, I'm happy. Not because everything turned out perfectly, but because the truth arrived before the wedding instead of after. Trust should never be tested. It should be built. And if someone needs traps, investigators, and games to feel secure, then the relationship is already broken. The funniest part, my friends now have a running joke. Whenever someone cancels plans, someone inevitably asks, "Book club," and every single time, we all burst out laughing.